With a Buddyfight collab coming to Vanguard, I definitely have to put those nostalgic glasses back on and look back to the days of Buddyfight, with ride lines I want to see from each world of flags other than the unique ones, except for Dragon Eins technically, because the only ride lines I think that will essentially happen are the main character ones. So let's get started on the list in no particular order, and it's probably gonna go up to Season 2 at the most, and maybe few at Season 3 and 4. But also, before we continue, how do you guys think we're gonna handle this ride line here? Are we gonna have the main character as the ride lines, maybe as a starter, and then the buddy as the ride up? And how do you think we're going to be doing the flags? I think at most they're probably going to be Crest, because I think that actually makes the most sense here when they raise up the flags. But anyway, let's begin. So of course we start off with the main character's flag being Dragon World. Let's be real here, Drum Bunker Dragon is a very likely ride line, in which we can also evolve him into the Super Armor Dragon and go even further with the Future Drum. And I think out of all of Gao's buddies, I think Drum is the most recognizable one. And then for another Dragon World, I would say Tasuku's Jackknife. Jackknife itself could be an interesting take, since in many ways it is very similar to doing Rebel forms where it's constantly changing forms. Especially once Jackknife changes to enough forms, he can become the Gold Ritter along with you. And also pro tag and rival reasons. And then continue up, we go to Darkness Dragon World. So the one deck for Darkness Dragon World that really needs to be here is the Purgatory Knights, since this is the deck also played by Tasuku, and definitely being a polar opposite of the Dragon World with the Armor Dragons, so having the Purgatory Knights would be awesome. And also in technicality, we're going to also put this Dragon Eins one here, being the Azidahaka, being a size 4 Darkness Dragon World monster and also played by the main villain of the first season, which itself can have an interesting take if they decide to evolve him even further, although that goes from Season 3, but he does have the swords as well, so that's another thing that I want to see. And then one more Darkness Dragon World one would have to be the Abigail. I don't think this one is too likely because I don't know how far they're going to go, but Abigail would be awesome since he is the best Darkness Dragon World representation here. And then Star Dragon World, one that was introduced in Season 2 as a completely new flag. In a way, this could be considered the Gear Chronicle Buddyfight, since it does come from the future as a future version of Dragon World. But anyway, the first main Dragon Empire user is of course once again Tasuku with Jackknife. And once again, it could be a little interesting when it comes to Star Dragon World, because Star Dragon World does a lot of cross-nizing, which is basically equipping your monsters to one, and of course making one powerful monster on top of it. And that could be a little interesting take, because it's basically probably putting stuff on the bottom of a rear guard, or even bottom of the Vanguard, or do something like a Legion, or do the Basagra take. There's many ways that they could actually do this here. And then another main Star Dragon user would be Athora. Don't see this one as likely at all, but this one came way later, but it's another Star Dragon World representation, but I think they're probably going to just go Jackknife since it makes the most sense. And now we go to Danger World. The most recognizable one is definitely the Cerberus, along with the Armor Knight archetype. Once again, another deck that stacks one of your cards into more power. In this case, more so the weapons than anything, but I think it could be interesting on how they could do this, especially if you decide to make equipping weapons here. And into the Magic World, we of course must have Asmodai, the main Magic World user, which of course using magic has a lot of trickery into it, which can actually make into an interesting playstyle. And into the Katana World, of course we got Tsukikage, which can actually have some cool little concepts like sneaking into your opponent's attack, like if your opponent decides to do something, you can counter it, and definitely this deck has a lot of counters back in Buddyfight, so I think it could be a cool way to do something on your opponent if they actually make this playstyle. Especially opponent turn interactions are always fun. And then we go to Ancient World. I don't know how they're going to do the lifelink here, because when an Ancient World monster gets destroyed, you're going to lose life based on their lifelink, which could be equivalent to just you taking 1 damage or you losing something. But one deck that I do see coming is the Dual Zieger, one of Yao's main rivals and definitely one of the cooler ones, especially since when Dual Zieger can evolve even further when it gets destroyed, which I don't know how they're going to do that, but they could just have them straight up evolve by riding or by retiring itself and then just evolving it. And it has 2 other forms, especially the one ultimate form that can attack 3 times. And then we go to Legend World with a main character that is also Omni Lord, which can actually make 2 different ride lines here if they want to, but the first one being Ice Blade Joker being his buddy, which does have a bit of a playstyle of kind of freezing your opponent by annihilating everything and even making your opponent probably can't even do stuff sometimes, while at the same time we could have himself as the Omni Lord, Misuria. Just possible ride lines here especially since Missouri does have a quote-unquote ultimate form being a dragon that didn't show up until the very last fight for him. And then for Hero World, we can definitely have Captain Answer here, definitely a cool little thing that we can use. But also, even though this wasn't used much, but does show up quite a bit, is Cardburn. There's really no main Hero World user, but a buddy police character that played important enough role does use this one deck quite a bit, which is the Cardburn, which could be a little awesome because in a way it's similar to Daiyusha where we have a Gakdai function here. So I hope they actually bring this one. And then finally the Dungeon World. Dungeon World is a bit wacky since in the Dungeon World there are main character replicas in the actual dungeon, which I do find a bit funny, which in a way could be its own Rhyline by the way. But there are two possible Rylines here since we do have a main character here, one being Bladewing Phoenix, being one of the main character's buddies, and there's also Count Dawn, her father's buddy that eventually joined her. And he played an important role throughout the series. Even though he's a monster, he was technically with the buddy police, but it would be cool if we have a Rhyline for Count Dawn. And so I think that goes over all the main actual flags for Buddyfight. I'm not going over the unique ones because some of them are only one character use, other than technically the Dragon Ein. What do you guys think of this list, and what other ones do you want to see, or what other ones do you think will actually show up? Personally, I think these are the ones that are most likely to show up, and personally for nostalgia classes, these are the ones I actually want to see. But other than that, how do you guys think they're going to handle their worlds and basically their nations? I didn't really go over their nations here because some of them might look very obvious and some of them might be debatable, since there are a good number that is mixed in between. But one thing I would like to see is flags being Crest, or two, the world flags being a clan type. And another thing is definitely the weapons, because one of the most unique parts about Buddyfight is definitely the weapons. But on that, I just gave you my list, so go ahead and tell me yours, and other than that, see you all next time.